Hello and welcome to another Between Two Bookshelves. My name is Attilio and this is Ashley.
What's up, guys?
And today we are reviewing The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss, a digital marketing legend. Before we get started, any announcements?
Not a whole lot of announcements, guys, but we are partnered with Room to Read, or we're donating all profits from our Between Two Bookshelves series to Room to Read, which is a nonprofit organization that helps get educational things like books, especially to children around the world, to make sure that they're set up good for that. So we are really hoping to get them some cash monies. So if you are interested in any of the books that we're reading, make sure to check out the links that are in the descriptions so that you can purchase the books and therefore help Room to Read. And I think that's all that we have for announcements if we want to do a brief summary of the book.
Yeah. So the 4-Hour Workweek to me is kind of just like a blueprint. It shows you like the possibility of this 4-hour work week, really. So like a high impact use of your time is kind of how I see it. A lot of the book is written from like the Pareto principle standpoint, which is, a lot of people know it as the 80-20 rule. And basically it kind of, to me, shows like just how available having a side business, you could have a side business easily. You could use this in your kind of maybe like your own day-to-day, just like focusing on what's really important instead of focusing on everything and everything.
The busy work.
Yeah. So, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I think that this book is definitely forward-thinking. It was written originally, I think, in 2007. I do think it's still a good read for today's time, which is, 13 years later, almost working on 14. So it was definitely written a while back. I believe the version that I had had been updated and expanded. So I don't know if that's what you had as well. It had like a blue strip on the front. It's like updated and expanded version. So there's been updates to the book. So if you're looking out for it, keep an eye out for that, because that might be something to consider.
Yeah. Did you want to jump right into scores?
Yeah, so up first, for those of you who are new with us, we rate each book out of 5 different categories. Each category rated out of 2. So the highest potential overall score can be a 10 out of 10 once you add them all together. So up first, we have Readability.
So I didn't really have any problems with it. I mean, the guy's kind of a beast already in marketing, and so you know that he's kind of got copywriting down. Everything was pretty logically laid out. Honestly, it wasn't like a super long book, really. I mean, it had the information it needed, I think. So I'm gonna give it a 1.25.
For me, Readability, I'm just gonna rate it a 1.5. I think it was good. There were a lot of quotes in the book, in at least my version of the book. And I don't know about you, my book was 12 hours.
Like a listen?
Yeah, which is significantly longer than the books that we've read in the past, which have been 3 to 7 hours long.
They might have had different versions.
Yeah.
I think...
we're grading different books.
Oh, you had the updated and expanded
one.
Okay, that's interesting. That's cool that they're doing that, though. That is cool that they're doing that. I think the one that I had on Audible was 4-Hour Workweek, like a summary version almost. It felt like it was just like a breeze. It felt like it was just like, this is what it is.
I didn't feel like that so much. But I am going to rate a 1.5 because it was super understandable, super easy to read. Yeah. I mean, even in the book that I read, because I feel like we're reading two different books. In the book that I read,
same book, different content.
It was mentioned, everything needs to be at a second grade level, especially when working with people. Specifically, in this case, it was talking about VAs. If there's a language barrier, but I feel like he applied that to his book and made it very, very simple and easy to read. Yep. So I'm going to put a 1.5 on Readability.
And Applicability is the next score, right? So how applicable the book is in today's day and age, I guess.
I think some of it was easy, but I think others, the way that he demonstrated it seemed easy to do, especially when it came to, so this book really kind of like Attilio said, is a blueprint, a layout of how to like free up your time and not be tied to specific location. Specifically, if you're like in a 9-to-5 job, how to transition into a remote position. And those conversations that he suggested to have with your superiors seems like really difficult, but he made it seem really easy, and I don't see it going well for everybody. And then the alternative was to quit or get fired. So that's kind of hard. So I'm gonna rate it a 1.25 because I do think that it's better than a 1 because there's some stuff that should be easy to apply, and once you apply it, I think it'll be helpful. But then the other fold of the story is that some of it might not be super realistic for everybody.
Yeah. I'm actually gonna go a little bit further down, I think. I don't think that so although I know that everything in this book is possible, and I have peers and mentors that I kind of look to and work with that could easily work 4 hours a week. Whether that's like a freelancer kind of position, or you're starting your own kind of job, or you start a business and you're running your business at 4 hours a week and you're just working on the most critical elements. Even though you might have it blocked like that, it can be really hard. I'm actually going to score this probably like a 1, like realistically applicable. Although I know people do it, and I know that hell, if I wanted to, I could probably do it. I don't know how well it would work out.
Yeah.
So maybe this is more of like a realistic score rather than like an applicability score. So I'm actually just gonna hit it with a flat 1. Just, I know that it's possible, and I know that it happens, and I know that you could do it, and the stuff is super logical, well put in place. Everything makes sense. All the stuff checks out on paper. I don't know if in actuality it turns out quite that way. Like you were saying, the other option is literally like you quit or get fired, and then it's like you got to figure out something else.
Yeah.
And it's like,
I think, let's put it this way. This book is a New York Times bestseller, and I know for a fact of all the copies sold, probably a very small percentage of people, I don't know, maybe not for a fact, but in my mind, not every copy that was sold, like everybody started working remotely in 2007 and like, started building these businesses that they wanted to like scale out of or not necessarily be a part of and run remotely. So I don't know. I just don't think I like it. I like it because it's a dream that people want. I think especially in this day and age, and
he shows you how to do it.
Yeah, just maybe not. He makes it seem easy. And maybe it is that easy if you have the right mindset, but
maybe.
Let's talk about relevance.
The people that I know that work 4 hours a week, don't end up working 4 hours a week.
Yeah.
I mean, really.
Period.
Yeah. They end up working more, and it's just because they either like what they're doing or some other. So yeah.
Yeah, I think part of it though is working 4 hours a week so that you can get to a point where you do things that money isn't an obstacle. So you do the things that you end up with wanting to love. So what was the example? Selling French shirts so that he could quit his job or whatever.
Yeah.
Anyways, okay, so relevance is up next. And relevance for me, I had a really high score actually. I put a 1.75 just because at this moment, remote work is very relevant. Particularly because if you're watching this in the very, very far future, right now we're kind of in the middle of the pandemic, coronavirus, COVID-19. So remote work proved to be super relevant, and a lot of people I think were wishing that they had that option. Luckily for us, we did, and it worked out really well. So something like this and kind of having that side gig like you were talking about and being able to sustain yourself in a couple of different ways is super, super important, I think, all the time. And at this point where we're at in the world, it was just kind of like reinforced to everybody how important it is, and like stop your old way of thinking, like having a 9-to-5 job until you're 65, that type of thing. So I think it's super relevant to today, even though it was written, 13 years ago, like I mentioned before. But I also think maybe that's my own mindset. That's the way I'm programmed and that's the way I think. And so maybe for somebody else, it's like, this is crazy talk. But I'm gonna rate it a 1.75 for relevancy.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna give it the same score actually, 1.75. And reason being, and I almost don't even think it's only relevant for right now. I feel like this book kind of started the laptop by the beach lifestyle kind of idea.
Yeah.
And actually on the cover, I think there's like palm trees or something, right? So on the cover of the book, literally there's palm trees. And you know, they're selling it as like, oh yeah, this is just like, it's a breeze. You just be on vacation, right? But really what it is, to me, the realistic version is like actually shooting for your goals or something. And even if that's you having to be employed while you're running a side gig for 4 hours a week, or where you're spending, you know, just a couple hours after work every day just to focus on that one extra thing that's gonna either fulfill you or make you the income, like hit the income goals you need without sacrificing the stable job. So to me, this is kind of like, what was the book we just read, The Gig Economy? I feel like this almost ties into that a little bit.
It
does. You know, and
same mindset.
Yeah, it really is a mindset, and all of the mindset checks out. Really, it does. So that's why I'm sticking to 1.75. I think it's just a solid, very, very relevant book. And with computers, laptops, iPads, Zoom.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing you can't do. That's
the cloud, like literally everything.
Yeah.
So this book has been around. This book is a popular book. I've heard of this book many, many times, and I'm surprised I've not read it until now. So there's a little bit of expectation behind the book. What would you say value versus expectation led you to?
That's a good question. I feel like I've heard this book around. A lot of people know Tim Ferriss in maybe the digital marketing community. Like you said, New York Times bestseller. The value was there, but I don't know if it like broke my brain with value. And maybe it's because I knew some of the stuff already, or we actively employ VAs and contractors. So it did make me think more critically about what's important, what's not important, and how to organize myself better. So it was kind of like a good critical thinking book for me. I'm gonna give it a 1.15 for my score.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, I think that speaks for itself.
Yeah, I think for me, I know that a good percentage of people in my life currently that are either like people I aspire to be like, or people that have kind of taken the path of entrepreneurship, or at least kind of enlightened in that way, have this book, have read this book, keep it on their bookshelves. And so for me, I had a high expectation. I think that some of it, like the toll-free number section, was a little bit outdated as far as like ordering that way, but I think it's been updated enough. So I'm gonna give it a 1.5. It didn't like blow my expectations or necessarily quite meet my expectations, and that's why I'm not giving it a 2. I think it's incredibly valuable, but I think I maybe had it up on a pedestal just a little bit. So I'm gonna give it a 1.5, which is a great score. It's a great book, but I think also kind of what we've been reading so much. And so I feel like we kind of have these things that are being repeated in all of the books, or kind of like a commonality. And so like hearing it again isn't maybe as impactful as if you're just reading this book after some like fictional stuff. So I think I'm gonna give it a 1.5. I'll just leave it at that.
Solid. And then our last score is the butterfly effect. Does it give you butterflies in your stomach when you're reading this book? Are you willing, ready, and able to take what the book has to offer and maybe apply that to your life? And did you want to go first, Bert?
Yeah, I gave the butterfly effect a 1.25. I think selling the fact of a 4-hour work week with palm trees is part of the reason it's such a bestseller. It's exciting. It's like, oh my gosh, like this potential I have in my life. Like it's kind of like realizing that for a lot of people. And so I liked it in that way. I'm a little bit more realistic, and so it didn't like shoot me over the moon. But it's a lot of exciting stuff, and it makes you look at your time, like hiring and outsourcing things like getting your house cleaned or doing things like that. So like, okay, so what am I going to be doing while I'm not getting my house cleaned? And just, it makes you really reevaluate your time and how efficient you are and effective you are. He kind of teeters with those two different things. So I'm going to give it a 1.25. It did excite me. It made me like ready to get rolling, but it wasn't a 2 worthy score.
Yeah. To me, this kind of ties into some stuff that I've learned in the past, and it kind of reignited maybe a little bit of that. There's like a lot of people who argue that if you are spending time on something that is worth less than your hourly value, that you are pretty much throwing away money. And some people say that you're basically programmed to be poor by settling for doing work that you're more valuable than, basically, or that you could be getting paid for. So if for example, if you get paid, I don't know, like look at a doctor, for example. A doctor gets paid, I don't know, $100 and something an hour, $200, $300 per hour. And they provide a high skill set service. They should, in theory, only be spending time on what they're getting paid the most for, and then use the rest of their money that they made for that to handle every other job and task around them that they need. And then like that, you can kind of scale yourself up to the point where you're not spending time on anything, only on the high value stuff that you're doing, and in that way you're kind of profiting the most.
Yeah. That's what I was trying to say.
And I got you. And it's a super strong mindset. And I think that I need to do it more. I think I need to think of that more. And this last week, I've actually even been thinking that more. Even just like if you're focused on managing the working of the estate, you can focus on managing the working of the estate, and then you can get that to work really, really well, and you can keep expanding from there. So I think I'm actually going to give it like a 1.6 for myself.
Nice.
Because it does make you critically think. And if you subscribe to that thought, great, let me know how it goes. If you don't subscribe to that thought, great, let me know how it goes.
Yeah. I think it just kind of opposes two different viewpoints, the book overall. And he describes it in a way of like the new rich and the old rich. The new rich being rich in freedom, rich in location, rich in, basically paints it like if you get paid $30 an hour. I mean, how is the best way to explain that?
Yeah, if you get paid $30 an hour and you can spend money on a house cleaner that works for you for $10 an hour, it's like instead of you spending your time doing the $10 an hour task, which lowers your average hourly pay, then your time is actually valued less than if you only did your $38 an hour job.
I guess I was meaning to compare, how if you're working 40 hours a week and you get paid $40,000 a year versus if you're working 10 hours a week and you're still getting paid $40,000 a year. You're richer if you have, obviously you get paid more by the hour, but you have the freedom, the time, things like that. And so it's kind of comparing the two different mindsets of the old rich are rich in a specific location and the new rich have the ability to travel, which Tim Ferriss talks about winning like boxing matches and salsa dancing in Argentina, I think. And so he just was like living the life. And I think this is what it sells. So I think it's a great book.
Nomad.
Yeah. Overall, my score was a 7.25 out of 10. And Attilio didn't calculate this yet.
Going slow here. It's a 6.75.
Yeah, so what is that? 0.5 difference. I think it's a really great book overall. I would highly recommend it to you guys. I think that if you haven't read it, you need to read it at least once, just because it's one of those books. Like,
yeah,
it's kind of a topic that you can talk to somebody about, because most everyone has read this book.
Yeah, really, honestly.
Yeah, so, but up next, we have The Circle of Profit by Anik Singo.
Yeah, so this guy, I know him maybe as a copywriter. So the book should be good.
Yeah, I don't know anything about this book.
I don't really know anything about it. I've seen the guy's face before. That's pretty much it. So maybe this is a little, could be a dark horse.
Hey, profit sounds good to me, so I'm looking forward to the book. All right, guys, well, thanks for tuning in to another Between Two Bookshelves. We hope that you enjoyed it. Stay tuned for our next book, like we mentioned, and subscribe, like, watch our other videos, buy our books, or buy the books, help Room to Read, right? All right, guys, we'll see you next time.